Hey everyone, thanks for watching. I have a really exciting show for you today. I have a gentleman with me named Ryan Nickel. How you doing today, Ryan?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
Excellent. So it's interesting, when you're in the real estate world and you start to network and you start to expand, you start to ask questions. And we got to know each other because I posted a comment or a question in Facebook about, hey, I want to learn more about subject two. I think the market is changing. If interest rates are going higher, I think, it'd be really profitable to understand the subject two business. And hands down, your name came back to me as the man. So kudos to you, and welcome to the channel.
Thanks. I owe somebody some checks, I think, or some
I
gift
think
cards somewhere.
lots of someone's checks. I thought we'd get started because one of the things that I've learned or heard about you is you're the skinny deal guy. So I thought we would just jump in and I guess first define what a skinny deal is, so just so there's no assumptions, and then maybe talk about a deal you've done recently so we can really put some context to that. So tell me about being the
Yeah.
skinny deal guy.
So fair enough. Yeah. So when I got started, I had no money, and I realized I needed to go after deals that no one else was going after. And in the investment community, nobody wants to go after the deals that have no margins.
Right.
And that was kind of where I cut my teeth. So a skinny deal is basically anything that a flipper is going to turn away from because there's no margin for them. There's no fat on the bone for them to go ahead and uh, turn around and flip that thing. And then it's also maybe not it's skinnier than what a landlord would be comfortable buying because they're going to buy a little bit higher or I guess less margins, but at a higher price than a flipper would.
Hmm.
And so I purchased at properties that are, like I said, they're skinny. There's not a whole lot of equity there. Sometimes they're upside down. I've actually purchased a few properties that are upside down. So that's what a skinny deal is. And most investors would kind of go, oh crap, this person called. I got this lead, but I can't do anything with it. And then usually I raise my hand like, I'll take that, that's the deal that
Yeah.
I want. And so to talk about a most recent deal that we did, Mike, was um, there was sometimes what I'll do is will call on bandit signs because they're out there, they're marketing, they're getting phone calls, and
Sure.
I want to turn their trash into cash, both for both of us.
Yep.
And so turn their turn downs into leads for me. So there was a guy that I called on. And I said, hey, if you ever get this property that someone's just desperate, they have to sell, but there's just no room. You can't list it. You can't do anything else with it. Give me a call. And so this guy called me up. He said, hey, I got a really good deal for you. I think it's going to be a sweet deal for you. Lady had just bought a brand new house. So she bought a rehabbed property
Hmm.
and she's only been in it for about 8 months and life happened. Her son got super, super ill. And unfortunately, because the balance of the medical cost and the home payment and stuff like that, they just couldn't keep the house.
Hmm.
And but she couldn't sell it either because, as you can imagine, she just barely moved into it, and there's
Hmm.
no equity to hire a real estate agent. So that was one where we actually just took over the payments on it, and we took it over sub two. And that was, gosh, we closed on that one on Thursday of last week, and I already have a buyer, and she's moving in today. And we were able to cash flow that one about $300 a month. It was a pretty sweet deal, and we helped the family out too.
Nice. So let's peel that back a little bit. So I love the idea of calling on bandit sides and turning trash into cash. Love that. Very creative. But let's talk about more how you took this opportunity, helped out a family, and yet added $300 a month to to your family's income a month. So it sounds like you took it over subject to her mortgage, which makes total sense, right? Let's just say her mortgage was $1,000.
That's exactly what it is. 1,011.82.
Oh, look at that. Well, that wouldn't happen again if I tried.
Nope.
All right. So 1,011.82. And then it sounds like you sold it to someone else. I'm guessing you did a wrap or
That's a
something.
great question. No, so what happens is I want to retain ownership of the deed.
Oh,
And
okay.
so I've done that before. I've done wraps before, and then I've been screwed. And the original seller who I bought the house from was kind of left holding the bag. Their credit was getting trashed,
Right.
dragged through the dumpster. And so I do not do wraps anymore unless
Yeah.
it's they've put a substantial down payment. So I actually did what's called a contract for deed.
Ah, okay. Okay.
And for those of you that are listening that aren't familiar with that term, it's basically the same concept of when you're buying a car on payments. So you don't have enough money to buy a car outright, so you get money from the bank. You don't actually get the pink slip until you make that final payment to the bank. And so it's the same principle. They're the registered owner of the car, but the legal owner is the actual bank. So technically, what happens is I am the legal owner of the property, but the registered owner, the guy that pays the insurance and has taxes and stuff like that, is the person that has the contract for deed. And once they make that final payment, then the deed will be transferred to their name.
Very good. So let's just play it out, because I'd call this a pretty advanced topic for lots of the people watching this. So you buy the house subject to, which makes perfect sense. So mortgage payment comes up, in 9 days from now, assuming you hadn't sold it yet. So let's just play with that.
Uh-huh.
You would cut that first check for $1,011.82. Makes perfect sense. Taxes are coming to you, property taxes, all of that.
Yep.
Okay. Now let's just pretend it's what month are we in? January. So it's February. You sell this to someone. So you sell it. Sounds like for $1,300,
Correct.
or thereabouts. What happens? So do they cut you a check for 13 and you cut a check for 11, or how does this play out?
That's exactly how it happened. So in this particular case, they gave me a down payment.
Mm-hmm.
So that down payment included, I made January's payment just for this example. So I made January's payment. So that down payment paid for me to pay the wholesaler who brought me the lead.
Yep.
Pay for this month's payment, and they also gave me, on top of the down payment, next month's payment as well. So their next payment is not going to actually due until March.
Okay.
So for clarification purposes.
Yes.
And then what happens is when the monthly comes in, so I get paid on the 5th. It's just like a traditional, the 1st to the 5th is when I'm collecting, quote unquote, my rents.
Right.
From these particular buyers. And then they pay me. I then turn around and I cut the check for the bank. I usually, for my accounting purposes, because we have quite a few of these,
I'm sure.
On the 8th is when we're paying the mortgages. And so that's typically how that works. So,
okay.
And that's how I calculate my cash flow. I have a monthly P&L on all my properties, and I look and see exactly what my monthly cash flow every single month, and I see if it's going up or going down. If it's going down, then we got to figure out what's happening, solve that problem.
Yeah. So just to make sure, again, 'cause as a landlord myself, I've never done one of these, so these could be silly questions. Who knows? When you file your taxes, say next year, who gets depreciation? Who gets depreciation is my first question, right? When you're filing taxes, do you get depreciation?
That's a really good question, and that's also a very gray area. So what I will do, I'll just make the disclaimer that I'm not a tax advisor, tax consultant, tax attorney, any of that stuff, and I can only share what I'm doing in my own personal portfolio. And I would advise others to seek that kind of legal counsel. So here's the situation. So when a property is sold on a contract for deed, its technical term is actually like an installment sales contract, and the IRS recognizes it as a sale. So technically, the person who's buying it from me is the buyer, and they get to claim the interest. So we prepare year-end interest statements for them to go and to do that. Now, with that said, I only have one family, one of all of the homes that we have, that actually requests it and files it every single year. Where there's a gray area is my accountant goes, well, hey, on all the other ones that aren't claiming it, you can claim the depreciation. Now, technically, I still own the property.
Right.
On as the deed goes, and I did sell the property on a installment sales contract. Now this is a non-recorded contract. It's not filed anywhere. It's not recorded with the county recorder's office, and so this is where it becomes a gray area.
Right.
My accountant, he's fairly confident that this is a-okay.
Right.
He did say though, if the IRS chooses to have a different opinion, I may be forced to pay some back taxes on the depreciation that I claimed.
Yeah. I guess the other thing to point out that it just hit me is you're selling, probably in most cases, if not all cases, to owner occupants.
Correct.
Right. That makes perfect sense, because they wouldn't claim depreciation. It would be interest. Now with the tax changes and SALT and all of that, who knows how interesting that is. And then that makes perfect sense. Okay.
And just to, ice it on the cake here is, and this is the way that my accountant explained it to me. He's like, look, Ryan, the IRS doesn't care which properties are claiming for depreciation. They just want to know if there's depreciation or not.
Yes. That makes perfect
I'm like,
sense.
Okay, if that's the case, then all right. I'll defer to you.
Yeah. Very cool. And then so most of the time, let's just take depreciation off the table. You're really not claiming any other expenses other than maybe legal, if you had to go,
Right. But I've had to evict a person before. So
it'd probably be a foreclosure, or would it be an eviction?
It's actually an eviction. This is part of the reason why I do the contract for deed. So it's a breach of contract.
Got it.
Is what it is, because they don't have the deed. So a foreclosure process is actually the process of getting the deed back into your name.
Okay. And
since the deed never transferred.
Okay. So do you consider these rentals? When you look at what you're doing, are you producing rentals, or do you consider it something else?
I loosely use the term rent to own, but it's basically seller finance.
Seller financing. Okay. That makes
Yeah,
perfect sense.
because I'm the seller and I'm financing it for them. But my buyers, they call it as a rent to own. Like, hey, do you have any more rent to owns? My brother's looking for a house.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Very cool. So I love the skinny deal ideas is very attractive. So, um, how big of a business? I mean, are we talking one a month? Are we talking, dozens? I mean, are you only in one market? Do you go all over the country? What does this look like for you, Ryan?
That's a really good question. When I got started in Savannah, Georgia. So I own property in Georgia and South Carolina.
Okay.
And then we moved back to California. That's where my wife is from. And I'm from here actually as well. We moved back here because the 10 year that I had out there, the mentorship and all that was coming to an end. And plus my father-in-law was diagnosed with cancer. So,
Oh, I'm sorry.
thank you. He's since gone, but we've seemed to have enjoyed this area where we're living in Northern California. So we own the majority of our properties are here in Northern and Central California. And I have students that I coach and mentor, and we buy properties together. So we are in other markets, but those are the primary ones that I focus on are markets that I know very well or that I have very solid boots on the ground.
All right. So when you say Northern California, are we talking Silicon Valley, Bay Area, the land of ridiculously priced property, or are we talking somewhere else?
No, yeah, since you're in California as well. So I live in a small town called Yuba City.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I
It's
know
about an
Yuba.
hour north of Sacramento.
Okay. All right. So, okay. Oh,
Yeah.
that's truly Northern California. Got it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Now anything outside of Sacramento is considered Northern California.
Yeah, exactly. Amen.
Yeah. In fact, we lost one of our properties in the Paradise Fire, the campfire that happened last
Oh my
November.
goodness. No,
Yeah. So
no lives lost, just property damage.
no lives lost. It was a property that the tenant was buying from us, and yeah, she got out. She got out with her 4 dogs. She lost one of her dogs, but yeah,
Oh,
totally traumatic. Very very horrible experience. And fortunately, we had another house that came vacant that we actually put on the market. And I just said, hey, move in. Don't worry more about payments until you're back on your feet. And
yeah.
she's been there since November, and we're not worried about it. It's totally
Yeah.
fine.
Good karma, man. Good karma.
That's one thing I've learned in this business is the more you give out, the more comes back to you.
Amen. You and I agree there. So do you do anything else besides sort of subject to and contract for D? Is there another thing, or that's enough to keep you busy?
It's very enough to keep me busy. Like I said, I do some coaching, but I also do some wholesaling.
Okay.
I generate my own list. I do it. I go to the courthouse. I pull up probate list. I drive for dollars. That's one of my favorite things to do is just drive for dollars and just take down property. So we actually do quite a bit of wholesaling as well.
What does an average week look like for you? You strike me as a young man who has a very balanced life. I mean, we communicated where you are on a family trip to Vegas. This feels like maybe a 20 to 30 hour a week. You do it when you want to, not because you have to kind of thing, but maybe I'm off and it's a 90-hour a week job. I don't know.
No, not nearly quite as much as that. Yeah, I do like to play. Every 90 days, we go on a family vacation for
Wow.
about 5 to 7 days. And sometimes my kids are young. I have 5 kids. And so they're, 9, 7, 5, 3, and 1. And so traveling too far away from home is we're not quite there yet. So we'll drive like a day or two and then we'll spend like 5 days there and drive back or something.
Okay.
So it's fun. But as far as my work day goes, I'm pretty consistent. I'm in the office at 9. I'm home by 5. Dinner's on the table by 5:15 when I walk in the door. And my beautiful wife, I'm fortunate to have a wife who enjoys being a mother and a stay-at-home mom and doing all the things that are associated with that. And my day is basically just following up on leads, finding new properties for my team, and going out and negotiating, walking properties, and talking to sellers.
Very, very cool. So let's talk about your team. You just brought it up. Obviously not a one-man show, I would guess.
I have a virtual assistant that does a lot of cold calling for me. And then I have, I call them property scouts. So I'm in different markets and I have them, I prepare the list and then I'll find some motivated sellers and then they'll go and they'll walk the properties for us and then come back with contracts.
Okay. All
So
right.
there's a lot of
Very cool.
coaching around that as well.
Yeah, I bet. All right. So clearly very successful doing some big things, but I always like to sort of, start our interviews there, but then we go back and go, okay, how'd this all start? Because usually it doesn't start all roses and rainbows. So what did it start for Ryan?
Well, after I inherited $3 million, I decided
You turned it into 1 million, right?
That's right. Yeah. I lost it real fast. No, I actually was, I was living in South Lake Tahoe and I was working for a startup and the owner and I just were kind of having the differences of opinions and stuff like that. And literally one day I walked in and he's like, "I want to meet you in my office." And I'm like, "Oh, cool, man. What's the next thing?" And the next thing was my severance package, which was gracious enough. He gave me 2 weeks, which, I mean, I don't even think I needed. Um,
Yeah.
it was just, I was blindsided by that. I was scared out of my mind. My wife was pregnant with our fourth child.
Wow.
And South Lake Tahoe, for those that aren't familiar, it's a resort community. It's very expensive to live in. And for us at that time, excuse me, well, I didn't know what to do. I tried to jump into like the hospitality industry, like the hotels and casinos and stuff like that. I couldn't find a job. So I started freaking out, and I actually didn't know what to do. And I knew I needed to support my family. So I went on welfare. And so we were on food stamps, and I had a buddy who had been kind of following me for the years. He's like, "Hey, I see your family's kind of struggling. Why don't you come out to Georgia? And I know you do some online marketing, and maybe you can help my company with because he's an investor as well. He's like, you do that and I'll pay you and stuff like that." I'm like, "Oh, great. This is this was in August when I got laid off. So I'm like, oh, this is September's rent. Okay, cool. We're good."
Yeah.
So I went out there, and he pulled a fast one on me.
Ah.
And it was like, "Hey, rather than paying you for your services, I want to give you one of my home study courses." And I'm like, "Dude, I can't pay the bills with a home study course. My wife's going to kill me." And he's like, "Dude, I don't want to give you the fish. I want to teach you the fish." And I was so just freaked out of my mind at that point. I'm like, "Dude, I just need rent. I don't care about your home study course. I don't care about anything that you do." And the crazy thing about it is, while I was there for about 4 days. This guy had family after family after family walking in his door with $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 down payments, and they were buying his rent to owns.
Huh.
And I'm like, and I couldn't see it. I just was like,
Yeah.
I'm here for a job. I'm here just to get paid and go back home to my family and try to figure out what I'm going to do next, kind of a thing.
Right.
And it really was a blessing. He's like, "Just take it home." He gave me a little bit of cash to pay, for our expenses and stuff. And they gave me the home study course as a bonus. And that was kind of like where I got into this business. I'm like, all right, Tahoe, I'm a real estate investor. But it didn't end there. I struggled for about 3.5 months, from September to October to November, and I couldn't get a deal. I couldn't figure this stuff out. And so finally, same guy reached back out to me. He's like, "Hey, I see your struggle, man. Why don't you just come to Georgia and I'll actually teach you how to do this? And by the way, the stuff you taught us online, it's working really well. I would like to just do like a swap. You continue doing online stuff and I'll mentor you in this real estate business." And I'm like, "Dude, I can't do that. My wife's expecting our fourth right now. There's just no way I can just up and leave and not, be there for her." And, after a lot of like prayer and talks as a family, literally one morning, it was the day that I decided I was going to go. I literally like broke down and I cried, and I'm like,
Yeah.
"Honey, I don't know if I can do this. And I don't know if it's going to work or not." And I was just sobbing, and I'm just like, "Is this really what we're going to do?" And so I kissed all my kids goodbye. I kissed my wife goodbye. And I'm like, if it doesn't work in a month, I'm coming home. And so I literally packed up my Nissan Sentra and I drove cross country. And I
Wow.
got there like 2 or 3 days before Thanksgiving. And this guy's like, "Hey man, come on in. We'll have meet you with the family and everything." And I ended up sleeping he had an office, and I ended up sleeping in the back closet of the office. It was a room about this size here. And I just slept on the floor for a couple of weeks. And it took 3 weeks. And then on the third week, it was December 19th. I'll never forget it. I got my first check for $20,000.
Wow.
And again, I was crying again, but these times these were happy tears this time. I was like, "Oh my gosh." I called my wife up. I'm like, "Pack your bags. You're moving to Georgia."
I got the money.
That's right, man. And but it was a time of really like just self-doubt. I mean, I think everyone's been there when just life has just thrown you all these curveballs, and you just like ask yourself, like, "Really? Can I really do this?"
Right.
And if it wasn't for him reaching his hand out and kind of lifting me up, I don't think I'd be here today. I mean, I really owe a debt of gratitude to him.
That's frankly a spectacular story. I may have missed it. What year was this? When did you get the notice?
2014.
Oh wow. Okay. All right. So we're talking 4 or 5 years ago. Okay.
Yeah, it was August 2014, and my first check was December 2014.
All right. So you remember that first deal? I mean, obviously it was
I sure do.
$20,000.
Yep.
Let's give it a little shout out. Let's talk about the first deal.
So you gotta think of you gotta appreciate the audaciousness of this. So I'm
Sure.
out there. and I don't know anything. I've been through this guy's training course, but I know he has my back. I know he's right there behind me, standing over my shoulder. And so I put out there on Craigslist, and I'm looking for deals. And so the first thing I put out there is on a Craigslist post that says, real estate investor looking for mentee. And so
Okay.
I coined myself as a real estate investor looking for someone I can mentor.
Okay.
And I hadn't even done my first deal yet.
Yeah.
And this kid, he goes, hey, I'm living with my aunt right now, and the landlord's having a hard time. I think he has like, 11 or 13 properties, and he's in bankruptcy and foreclosure and all this stuff. Maybe you can help him, by buying a few of them. And I was like, that sounds great. So I go and I meet this guy, and sure enough, he has 11 properties, and he's struggling with the payments on these properties,
Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah.
And so, again, I'm the friendly, go lucky, happy kid, like, hey, I can help you kind of thing. It's my mentor that really kind of like solidifies the deal.
Sure.
But the way it worked out was basically I said, hey, I know you can't make these payments. I'll take over those payments for you, and I'll give you a little bit of money monthly as well. You don't have to worry about the maintenance, the upkeep, the repairs, all that stuff.
Makes sense.
And he went for it. And we ended up buying four of the he had 11 properties. 4 of the 11 properties, he sold one off, and then he retained, I believe, 7.
Okay. All
But
right.
that was my first deal. And so I took that property, and then I turned around and I sold it as a lease option. And that's where I got my money from.
Very cool. And that was when you closed on with him and your lease option, was that days, weeks? What was that like?
Simultaneously.
Oh,
Yeah. So one of the
nice.
things that I've learned from my mentor is never commit to a deal until you know you have it sold. And so when we put the
Wise
option,
words.
totally wise words. I mean, this guy's been in the business for 30, 40 years. And so I'm learning on all the things not to do, because he has the world of experience and this wealth of knowledge.
Yeah.
And the options contract that we did, once we put the option in, we turned around and started marketing that option.
Yeah.
And we got a
Very
lady
cool.
that had moved down from New York, and she had a settlement. She had cash. She didn't have a place. She was living in a motel, and it was just a godsend for her
Very
and
cool.
for us.
Yeah. And for you, and it was proof, right? That first deal is always proof that this works.
Yeah, not to quote too much of my mentor, but he said, Ryan, congratulations, you got your first shut up check. And I'm like, what's a shut up check? He goes, a shut up check is to tell all your friends and family that doubted you to shut up.
Yeah.
And then 2, to tell yourself all the doubts and fears that you have in your mind just to shut up. Here's my proof right here, $20,000.
Yeah. Photocopy that. Keep it in your back pocket. That's awesome.
Oh yeah, man.
So where did you take it the next year? So that first one comes in late December.
Mm-hmm.
Now you believe it. You have your shut up check. Did it just instantly take off from there?
No, it didn't. So January, I'm still trying to find new properties. Now I'm excited. I'm like, yeah, this is going great. So I'm trying to find all these new properties. I'm out there actively marketing. I don't think it comes until about March where I meet somebody in a church. He mentioned that he's moving like literally like the next week. He's like, I don't care. I hate my job. I'm leaving. We're going cross country. We're going back to Utah where my wife's family's at. I'm like, dude, what are you gonna do about your house? I'll buy that. And he's like, really? Here you go. We actually ended up wholesaling it because a lady's husband just passed, and her daughter lived 3 houses down.
Huh.
And like, I want that house. I don't care about the price. Here's $100,000 cash.
Yeah.
And the house is probably worth like maybe 85.
Huh.
So we're like, all right.
All right, we'll take it.
Yeah, personally, I would have rather kept it because the monthly payment was like $500, and rents in that area were like 11.
Yeah.
But hey, you win some, you lose some.
Yeah. Well,
After
never
that,
go taking a profit.
that's right. Yeah, that's totally true. After that, I didn't have anything. I struggled for a long time. I think this is what happens with a lot of beginners is they put forth the effort, and then they call it that beginner's luck kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And they get this success early on to keep them motivated, because there is going to be some dry times, some lean times.
Sure.
And if I hadn't had that early success, I probably wouldn't have stuck it through, because I realized how much that money had meant to my family. And because we were living pretty lean at the time, and we were still on food stamps when my wife moved out to with the kids to Georgia. And so we had our food expenses taken care of. And so we had that money in the bank, and we were living off of that quite frugally. Mm-hmm. And I didn't get my next deal. I actually got 3 deals in succession. I got 2 in July and 1 in August.
Wow. So you went from December to July.
Mm-hmm. But I learned a lot. And what I learned about was, and this is where So I learned the mechanics from my mentorship. I learned the mechanics of how to do a deal. What I didn't learn was the marketing of a deal. Like, how do you go out and find
Yeah.
a market? How do you build yourself up as a brand or an expert? And so I actually wrote a book,
Okay.
and that was what I used. And that's actually how I got this next 3 deals. Was I leveraged this book, and I created myself as kind of this local expert, very knowledgeable. And the book is Why You Can't Sell Your House, and then the subtitle is How to Sell Your House in a Market That's Not Selling.
Very cool. Do you have it there with you by chance?
You know what?
We can show it on the
I,
video.
I don't. I have my second book, but I don't have
Well,
my
we'll
first
show
book.
it. Let's give you some shout outs. I mean,
Yeah. So the second book I wrote about was, let me pull this out here.
no problems.
Whoops. How to Defend Yourself in Foreclosure.
And what
And
sparked that one?
so I do a lot of pre-foreclosures. I do a lot of door knocking. And what I realize is people, they throw postcards away. They throw flyers away. Very few people will throw a book away.
Okay.
And that was the idea that I had with my other book, was like, I'm knocking on their door. I'm asking them to sell their house for, terms or payments.
Yeah.
And I gave them the book, and it explains the reason why. And most of these people were upside down, and they don't want to do short sales. And so that book pre-sold me. This book pre-sells me as well. And it comes from a place of education. I believe that he who educates dominates. And so by educating the marketplace, I'm the logical source after the fact. Like, well, I read this book by Ryan Nichol, but I'm not going to call him. He's a jerk.
Yeah, I don't like him.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's like, no, they're going to go with the guy that gave them the information.
Yeah, one of the outcomes I've seen already from the book that I just released like 5 days ago was I'm already getting phone calls from people going, hey, I like your story, one rental at a time. Here's my house. So I did it as a way to give back to investors, but it's already helping the other side of the business as well. It's kind of
fabulous.
Yeah.
So you know exactly.
Yeah, it was a happy surprise. So so let's fast forward. So actually, what I want to go back. So you did one deal in 14, December 19th. Sounds like you did 3 deals successfully in sequential July and August. What did you finish 15 with? Was it just those 3, or did it ramp from there? What did you finish 15 with deal-wise?
Yeah, good question. So what happened, I left Georgia in September of 15, came out to California and tried to reestablish myself. And I got my very first, so I had to build up my marketing again.
Yep.
And I got my first deal in December of 15, which I still own today. Actually, all of the properties except for one I still own today, and that one that I don't own anymore, I just sold. The person that was living in it finally cashed us out last November.
Okay. All right. And then I'm just trying to get a feel for the audience. So it starts really slow. I'm guessing it's not stairs, but it's kind of, I don't know what you would call that, exponential. Your success, so it goes 1, 4, what are these deal volumes after, 15, 16, 17?
So, and this is kind of the evolution of where I struggled was, I went from one deal every 3 months,
right,
to trying to get to one deal every 2 months. And that was where so now we're in California, and we're starting 16 now in January. And my goal is to get to one deal every single month. I'm like,
okay,
I can do this. I can make this happen.
Yeah.
And the market we're still on our way up from the crash in 2012 in this particular market.
Certain. Yeah.
But there's still a lot of properties that sellers held on to that were upside down.
For sure.
And so for them, the market wasn't coming up fast enough. And that was where I was pigeonholing myself, was into those houses.
Makes perfect sense. Yep.
And so I eventually find my niche, and that's when I started calling on bandit signs and calling on other investors, because they're running into these people that need to sell. They're desperate, but they can't, and there's no margins. And so I start partnering with them, and I eventually bridged that gap from a deal every 3 months to 2 months to one deal a month. And I'm thinking, well, shoot, let's do this, and let's go one deal. Let's go 2 deals a month, and then 3 deals a month, and then 4 deals a month. And I think at my peak, we were doing 6 deals a month. And this is a combination of us keeping some for our portfolio and then also wholesaling as well. It got to the point where of August of 2017, I retired. I'm like, I have enough cash flow. I don't need to work anymore.
I'm good.
Hallelujah. And that lasted for about 3 months, and I was bored out of my mind. I can't do this anymore.
Been there. I'm like, God, what am I going to do now?
Well, it was also so short-sighted too, because I had barely inched over our expenses, thinking like, yeah, I'm done. I think we were, just to be transparent, it wasn't a whole lot of money. I think our expenses was $5,500. And that was because we had, just again, a family of, at the time, 4.
Right.
we had grew up, living, like, not grew up, but like the last, 4 years have been pretty lean for us.
Pretty
And
lean.
so,
Yeah.
and we have gotten used to, like, tightening our belt and things like that. And so, slowly after that, we're like, oh, money's coming in. So our expenses have now, it
Yeah.
exceeded that. Where our cash flow right now, I think, is about 6,700 bucks a month. But I think the overall business is very healthy because we bring in about 2,500, or excuse me, 25,000 a month, between wholesaling and our cash flow
Yeah. I
properties.
think you're doing okay. That's why you can do vacations every 90 days.
Yeah, right. But
Uh,
my goal actually is to kind of, bridge this conversation, is to, this year, because of the campfire and because of several properties, we've unloaded a lot of properties this last year. We're down to about, from our high, I think we're at 31 or 32 at one point. We're down to 17 right now.
okay.
So we're looking at only the properties that are the highest and best uses, as far as keeping them long term, and
Sure.
also, cash flow wise. And plus, the market was turning, and we saw that it was turning, and we wanted to get rid of the more challenging ones. So we're down, our cash flow right now is 6,700, but my goal is to do, 24 properties to bring us back up to 10,000 a month in cash flow this year.
Very
And so
cool.
far, we've just picked up 2 already for this month, and that was my goal. But I'll keep
My.
on working on. I'm working on another one right now.
Nice, nice. So that actually helps us go to this third section. So, 3 to 5 years out, is it just that 10K number? Is that kind of where you want to take this? Or do you have bigger goals? You want to be in like 15 markets? Do you want to be, obviously you're already doing a lot of successful mentorship. We got to talk about that, but where are you going to take this thing, Ryan?
Yeah, that's I'm torn. I really am torn on this one. And, so growing up, part of the reason why I love being an entrepreneur, and I love being specifically a real estate investor, and having my time, is my dad he was a prison guard growing up. And, my mom and dad are still married. But growing up, I really didn't have, a dad in the home, because we're a family of 4 kids, and he was working overtime a
Mm,
lot of the times that I was growing up. And so either he was not there or he was sleeping, and we had to be out of the house because he worked a graveyard shift, and it was,
mm,
prison environment's kind of rough. You want to make sure that, dad's on alert so he doesn't get stabbed from behind or shanked or something.
yeah. Ugh.
And, I mean, he started in Folsom. That's where, good old days. And,
Oh yeah.
uh, for me, it's about being a dad and being present with my wife and being with my kids. And so those 90 days are important.
Mhm.
But my true heart of hearts tells me that once I hit that $10,000 a month mark, that, I'm just going to focus on helping other men build their legacy with their families as well. So I'm going to focus more on the coaching and the mentoring. If they go over to bootstraprei.com, I've had people criticize me for putting it out there, but I have a free course. It's completely free from A to Z on how to find the properties, talk to the sellers, knock on their doors, do a property evaluation tour inside and out, and actually get the contract. And I share my contract with people. And this is a real live deal that I walked from start to finish. And it's there as a free resource for anyone that wants to get started. So there's like no excuses. I'm not asking people to pay for it or anything like that.
Yeah.
I feel I just want to give back.
Yeah. Again, we're both in this game for a while now. And when you talk to people, there's two sides of the coin that I see with what I call successful real estate investors, right? Whatever you want to term that as. There are the people that are chasing the money. And for those people, like they set a goal of 10,000. When they get there, it'll be 15,000, and they'll just never stop because that's their thing, right? That's the gas in their engine. Then there's
Yeah.
guys like us, and I'm going to say you and I are on the other side. It's okay. We're going to get to a number that not only makes our family comfortable, but makes us really comfortable, right? If we spend 6,500 and we have 10, we have those extras, the just in case, all of that stuff. Once that's covered, we're not chasing the money. It's about, okay, how can I give back and help others? How can I, whether it's pick people up or mentor others, and hence, I want you to give your site again in the free course, because I think that's what, at least for me, that's what life about. I chased money for 2 decades of my life. I freely admit that. 20s and 30s, I chased money, and frankly was successful, but I wasn't happy. And this last year has made me so much happier and just giving back. So do me a favor, give the site again, sell it up, because I don't think you sold it enough. It's awesome.
Well, I appreciate that. I wasn't trying to sell it. Just it's a resource. It is what it is. And
Yeah.
if people take advantage of it, then hey, that's what it's there for. If not, that's okay too.
Yeah.
But it's Bootstrap REI. So I'm known as a bootstrap real estate investor. I started from food stamps, and here I am. Fortunately, that's something that's in the past. But yeah, it's bootstraprei.com.
Yeah. And again, I said selling. I didn't mean selling.
No,
I
it's
just
totally
meant,
cool. I know
yeah.
exactly what you meant, man.
Yeah. Cool. Cool.
Ring it from the roof, scream it from the rooftops, tell the whole world, like, hey, here it is.
Yeah. I mean, there are some people that kind of act like they're giving back and kind of, you can always see what they're really doing. And then there's guys like us. It's like, nope, give everything away. Don't sell anything. Just go. So I love that.
Yeah, and the only thing I do sell, actually, I mean, to be completely transparent, is my time. So if
Yep.
someone, like, I give them the resources to get the thing under contract. If they want to go wholesale it to somebody or do whatever, I'll buy it from them as well. If it's a great deal, I'll buy it. That's the
Mhm.
whole point of it, is to feed me as well and make money, and so both people can make money. But if someone actually wants to be mentored and like, hey, how do you do this? How do I do that? I got to charge for my time, because if not,
Absolutely.
I'm robbing from my family.
Absolutely. No question. No question at all. So, so I thank you for this. I do want to go back to the question, just because I've been playing. I see some skinny deals in my market.
Okay. I bet
So
you do.
I just wanted to ask a question, just because I have you and I can. Haha.
Go for it, man. I'm all yours,
So,
Michael.
um, the couple that I found are actually on the MLS, right? So
Okay.
there's realtors involved.
Yeah.
Um, and they have a 90-day contract or whatever that, their
Okay.
whatever their listing contract is. Have you ever bought out of the MLS subject to? Maybe I was thinking about maybe, buying subject to existing financing, and then I'll pay a real estate commission of $1,000 each or something like that, so that the agents are taken care of. Or what do you think?
Yeah, I've your market's a little bit different than mine. I think you're a little bit more progressive than where we're at here. I've attempted to, and
Mhm.
unfortunately, I've never successfully purchased a property that was through a real estate agent on the MLS. Now,
Yep.
I have agents that bring me deals that
Yes.
understand what I do,
Right.
and that's different. But me actually approaching the agent and having to educate them because
Yeah.
it's so foreign, I usually get like, "Well, isn't that illegal?" I'm like,
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
and here's the crazy thing too, and this is, I'm not a licensed real estate agent. I do work with a lot of them.
Yep.
um, However, being licensed is you're licensed to represent either a party, a buyer or a seller, and to do the paperwork as the representing party, as to my understanding.
Yeah.
I could be completely wrong. Where I think that the agents go off the rails is when they go, well, I need to advise my client and I need to give them counsel on what to do, and that's actually not what's under the jurisdiction of their license. They're not licensed to give advice. That's legal. That's
Yeah.
what a lawyer would do.
Right.
And so I run into that one a lot, is, I'm going to advise my client against this idea. It's immoral or unethical, and I hear all kinds of stories of
Yeah.
that. And then on the flip side, I have families that are, give me Christmas cards and thank me and cry on my shoulder because I saved them. And I mean, I think I have it here. If I can flip to it really fast. I have a woman that she inherited her mom's home, and her mom, and she couldn't pay it anymore. And after that, the bank was going to take it, and I literally brought it current and paid for her and gave her some moving expenses, paid for her lawyer, paid for all these different things, and she wept on my shoulder, and I mean, I got teary eyed too talking to her. And she's like, God bless you, you are my guardian angel.
Uh,
And it's like, you probably won't be able to see it, I don't know, but her name is Denise, and it's right there. But it's
yeah.
on, for those at my book, it's page 14. She just says, thank you so much for being here, you're my guardian angel.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's the stuff that money can't buy.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, this has been a lot of fun for me. So something I always do at the end of the show is turn it over to the guests to share whatever they like. Obviously, you can share the site again if you want. If you're looking for deals or private money or whatever you're looking for, this is your time to shine and share.
Um, you know what? I'm just looking to give back. I can honestly tell you that private money is always good, because what we end up doing is, my business model is to buy the house. So sometimes there's arrears, sometimes there's moving expenses, things like that, and I only have so much capital that I can burn through.
Yep.
And what we do is, just for your listeners that are interested, is we take the money, we bring the mortgage current, and then we turn around and we sell or finance it, and we make all that money right back. And so I'm able to pay a pretty healthy return on that money that we borrow. And I mean, that's available if someone wants to be a passive investor in this business and not go out there and, knock on doors and get run off by people that are not interested in selling for whatever reason. So that's always an opportunity. But I think more importantly, if someone just wants to join the Facebook group, Bootstrap REI, and just post what their challenges are. I mean, I'm creating content every Monday. I have a motivational Monday video. Every Friday, I have a flashcard Friday. I don't think we talked about it. I have a set of flashcards that I produced for.
Nice.
It's just there to give back. What I would like to know though, Michael, is how can people get a hold of you? Because I want to take this video and I want to promote it in my group so that they can get a hold of you as well.
Absolutely. So thank you for asking. I push everything out on my YouTube channel, and the YouTube channel is called One Rental at a Time. That channel, that's the name of my book. It's really what allowed us to go from crazy busy professionals working 60 to 80 hours a week to financial independence over 15 years. And like you, I retired February 1st of last year.
Awesome.
I spent a couple of days really excited. And then I had 2 or 3 weeks of almost, I'll call it depression, because I didn't know what to do. I was 45 at the time. Sure, my bills were covered, but I kind of felt like I wasn't doing anything.
It's interesting you say that, because I literally said the same thing to my wife. I'm like, you know what? I got nothing to live for.
Exactly.
And she thought like I was gonna like put a gun in my mouth or something. I'm like, no, nothing like that. I'm just like, my whole goal was to become debt and financially free. And like, my goal is met. And like, I realized how low of a standard I had for myself.
Yeah. And
like, now I'm like, forget it. I'm going to, I want all the fathers in the world that want to be in real estate. I want to bless all of their lives. I want to give them the ability to be free like we are. That's like my vision that I probably will never end up seeing in my lifetime. And hopefully that legacy carries on, but like, it's beyond me now.
Yes. Well, that is exactly where I got to, is I had to find something, because again, I got to the finish line and I'm like, okay, now what? Right. I've been used to running so hard for so long. I'm like, oh my God, the race is over. I'm not going to go sit in the stands because that's not me. And there's no more races to run. So I had to create a new race. So I'm trying to create a legacy that outlives me by 100 years. Hence the book, hence the channel. I'm doing everything to think about. People are going to say Michael Zuber 100 years from now. There's a investor whose book I bought from the 1950s called William Nickerson. He's actually out of Fresno State, that talked about turning $1,000 into $1 million back then. So I'm like, that's the guy I want to try to be like. So that's what I'm trying to do.
I'm always looking for great books. What's the name of his book?
So it's William Nickerson. I believe it's How I Turned 1,000 into 1 Million. It was produced in 1950s. It's like 2 inches thick. The only thing you have to realize is it's talking about crazy numbers, like houses bought for $7,000 and, rents of $150. Because again, it's 1950, right? So, but
I'm a book hound, man. I'll pick that one up and I'll devour it.
It'll be expensive. I bought mine on Amazon for like $150 because it's obviously been out of print for 50 years.
Oh, that's totally cool, man. I'm all good for that.
Awesome. Well, I thank you very much for this. This has been outstanding. You've not only helped others, but helped me. And if there's anything that we could do together ever to either help with your mission or mine, just let me know, please.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think there's a lot of synergy between the two of us, whether, I mean, in essence, you take the landlord perspective, correct?
Yep, correct.
And then I'm basically the same thing, but I'm a lien lord. I just own the debt and service the same people that are looking to buy, keep a house, except the only difference is someday mine will be paid off and I'll have to go get more. Yours won't be. Yours is just, they're assets forever. So
yes. Well, I think there's a lot of synergies, and we could do a pretty cool event or whatever you'd like. Again, we're close enough together. I'd come see you or whatever you'd like. So just let me know. All right, man. Thank you very much.